Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Lawyer Talk, where we take five with a trusted advisor, and each week get to know an attorney that maybe you or your friends or family or loved ones might go to for legal needs. And also, it's great to get to know the people choosing law as a profession. I am so excited to introduce you to this week's guest, Attorney Alan Ostergren. Alan, really appreciate you being here with us today. Please introduce yourself, your firm, and tell us a little bit about what you do, what kind of work you do.
Well, Haley, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. My name is Alan Ostergren, and I practice law at Alan Ostergren PC based in Des Moines. I do mostly trial and appellate litigation with an emphasis on constitutional law and election law. I was a county attorney in Eastern Iowa for 22 years, and I prosecuted all kinds of criminal cases in that role, and then decided to go into private law practice last year. So my law practice takes me in front of state and federal courts in Iowa. Working on a variety of constitutional law issues is the primary emphasis of my practice.
Oh, interesting. Yes, the constitutional law. And that kind of makes me think of I think it was fall, we were talking and you were involved in a political race that was really tight here locally. Did you go into law knowing that you kind of wanted to go into constitutional law and politics, or tell us a little bit more about, why you initially became a lawyer?
Sure. Well, I became a lawyer. I was actually interested in being a prosecutor coming out of college and going into law school. An experience with a college classmate kind of influenced me on that when she was the victim of a very serious crime, and made me think about how I wanted to use my talents in life and use them in the law enforcement capacity for a long time. And in law enforcement, you touch on a lot of constitutional law issues, although normally it's just criminal procedure as influenced by constitutional principles. But I got interested in appellate advocacy during that time. I started a amicus curiae committee for my professional association. I was president of my County Attorneys Association here in Iowa, and started that committee to do work for the association, practicing in front of the Iowa Supreme Court, filing amicus curiae briefs, friend of the court briefs, on a variety of criminal and civil law issues. And I really felt like this was a niche that I was interested in and enjoyed. And so when I made that transition into private law practice, I wanted to continue doing that kind of work. And, I had been, when I left, an elected official, and I was involved in the political world and wanted to keep that up. And when I went into private practice, I got involved in some political related litigation about Iowa election laws, and then, as you said, transitioned into a case right after the 2020 general election, where I was hired to represent a congressional campaign in what was the closest congressional race in the country. The certified vote total was 6 votes, although there's a lot of details there that would take longer than the length of your program to explain. But we went through a state recount process. We contested the election in the U.S. House of Representatives, or the other side did, I should say. And so we litigated that in front of courts and in front of the Congress. And I'm pleased to say got a successful result for our client. And that was a very rewarding case to work on because it had national prominence.
No, that was huge. And yeah, very close, like you said, closest in the nation. That's insane. But it sounds like you kind of got led into like the politics piece of it after your initial wanting to get involved in, due to an experience that somebody close to you had. So really interesting how that all plays out. And it's you never know, when you go into law school, what you're really getting into. And then there's so many different directions that you could possibly take that. What advice do you have for, new lawyers?
Sure. Well, Haley, that's a great point, that you don't really know what your path is going to be over your legal career. And, I'm like a lot of people, and that is, I didn't quite end up doing exactly what I thought I would be doing in law school, but I've had a great career up to this point and love the trajectory that I'm on. And so the advice I would give young lawyers is, your learning does not stop when you pass a bar exam. That law school experience taught you enough to let you pass the test that gives you a piece of paper that says you can practice law. And if you want to be a good lawyer, you have about another 40 to 50 years of learning ahead of you to constantly be improving your skills and to develop as a lawyer. One of the traps I think that young lawyers can get into is that they think that they are gaining experience, but really what they're doing is repeating the same very small set of tasks or skills over and over again. They're not really growing as a lawyer. They're just getting practice at doing a handful of things. So challenge yourself. Look for things to do that expand your ability. Now, I realize that the practice of law is a business also, and you have to do things that bring in billable hours and keep the law firm going. And as a young associate, you may not have a lot of control about what you do, but you certainly have control about how you do those things. And look for ways to expand your skill set. And the biggest piece of advice I could give young lawyers is work like crazy on your writing skills. You have to have a certain degree of writing ability to go through college successfully, get into law school, and do what you need to do there. But a lot of lawyers stop thinking about the writing skills at that point. And it's really important to continuously work on being a good writer. And the way you do that is you write a lot, you read a lot of good writing, and you think critically about what you're doing. I wanted to bring here to this interview a few books that I think that young lawyers would benefit from reading. And one is a really simple thing. And before you get into really the structure of good writing, one thing you can do to help is make your writing actually appear good on the page. And I have a book that I recommend to everybody, Typography for Lawyers, Matthew Buttrick. He's got a great website. You can actually read this entire book on his website, but you do the right thing and buy this book. And a lot of briefs, look terrible and they're hard for a judge to read. And if nothing else, make your brief pleasurable to read. Think about how it looks on a page, the fonts you use, the margins you use. Those things may seem trivial, but they're really important to a judge who has to read an enormous number of things. Now, on the substance of good writing, a book I recommend, Ross Gruberman, Point Made. This is the second edition of this. He breaks down how really good lawyers, approach writing. And you can do things in a systematic way to learn to be a better writer. Another great resource is a guy named Brian Garner. I would start with this book, The Winning Brief by Brian Garner. And it's full of tips. It's very easy. You can read one of these in about 15 minutes or 10 minutes and really pick up a tip there that would help your writing improve. Look at what good lawyers around you are doing. Download briefs from big cases. Go to the U.S. Solicitor General's website and download briefs there. Look at what's being filed in the Supreme Court. That's all great writing, okay? And you can learn a lot from that, and then practice and practice and practice and practice. And you will find that good writing skills are something that will carry you in lots of situations where maybe substantively you don't know a lot about that area of the law, but your ability to write a very good brief that is persuasive for your client's position will get you through to where you want to be.
That's amazing, Alan. Thank you so much for that advice and specifically those books. I'll have to put those in the comments of this post. And
Absolutely.
Like you said, writing for new lawyers, that practice, challenge yourself. I love that. And, a lot of that can translate over to any profession as well. The way that you're writing and positioning things and the formatting makes a huge difference that sometimes we don't think about. So excellent advice. Thank you so much, Alan. And everyone, thanks so much, Alan, for being here today. Everyone else, we'll see you next week, but give Alan Ostergren a follow. And thanks so much for being here. And everyone, next week.